Hey guys, with Black Friday right around the corner for 2020, a lot of the Fire Emblems sale is going on for Three Houses. And if it's your first time playing Three Houses, I want to talk about which path to pick, which is the best path rather, that you should start with, and also like if you're going to do more than one playthrough, which path is really worth it here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through each path that you can do. There's 4 paths. And then there's also DLC, and I want to go over kind of the pros of each and why you would want to play each path. So let's get started here. First we have the Crimsonflower path, and this is the Black Eagles path. This is definitely called the waifu route. You can see there's actually 4 girls that are very intriguing during this specific route, starting with Edelgard, and you can see here there's Bernadetta, Dorothea, and Petra as well. They all kind of bring something unique, and the more you learn about them and the rest of the Black Eagle cast, it's really interesting. I call this the waifu route because a lot of people who side with Edelgard during the path, they really kind of simp for her. Not only is she determined, she's kind of single-minded, but she has that softer side. A little bit of tsundere in there, but also kind of a very determined waifu. Now you can also go for Bernadetta, who's kind of like your typical shy anime girl here. She doesn't want to get out of her room, but you know, you get her to come out and in some of her supports, and it's really definitely worth it. You get to know her a little better. Now Dorothea is actually one of the more interesting characters of this franchise. She's useful in combat, but she's also comes from like a really poor background in kind of the house with the most nobles. She's not a noble, so it's very interesting to watch her interact with all of these different nobles and kind of see how she reacts to them. She's also very voluptuous, if you know what I mean. So if you're into that type of maiden, there you go. Now Petra is like a very unique character. It's kind of like a character I've encountered for the first time in the game, where she's kind of out of her element, especially if you're an immigrant, first time in America or in like kind of European country. You kind of feel for her because she's kind of out of her zone, but at the same time she kind of learns and adapts to the environment she's in, and you get to be part of that journey. So all of these are great waifus. If you decide to go this route, you get to meet and learn them all, and definitely many people will simp for Edelgard. That's not even a question. I also want to say that, you know, if you're not a very religious person and you want to play Three Houses, a lot of the story rather happens kind of in a monastery, and that's very religious. There's kind of a church that you can go through in a cathedral. But if you're not religious at all, you'll definitely sympathize with this path. This is kind of the anti-religion path, more of a real-world path. If your ideals are aligned and you're a kind of agnostic or an atheist, you'll definitely side with this path. It emphasizes less on religion and more about merit and your choices and kind of your skills. So if you're of that mindset and of that attitude, definitely play this path. This path is for you. Now, it is the shortest path, so if the Fire Emblem is kind of your first game, if Three Houses is your first game, you might want to play this path. Let's say you have little time as well, you may want to play this path. It's definitely the shortest. There's only 18 maps, 18 chapters that are involved. I mean, it really moves along the story quickly, and you kind of get to know everyone. There's some spoilers that I don't want to reveal, but definitely if you choose this path, you are supporting Edelgard and her goal and her vision. So definitely pick this one if you have little time. If it's your first Fire Emblem, I definitely recommend it for the first playthrough here. Kind of learn about the world without being fully immersed into the religion and the kind of the Garrick Mach Cathedral nature of it. It kind of lays it on you a little thick, so definitely pick this one if you're less religious and more realist. So I think realists will really enjoy this path. I think males will enjoy this path, obviously. It's the waifu path. And definitely pick this one if it's your first time through Fire Emblem. You'll kind of get an overall idea of the world without being totally immersive in the RPG. and you want to be more of a realistic approach. Alright, so I'm going to continue on here, and the next path we have Azuremoon. So this is the Blue Lions path. This, to me, is more of a traditional Fire Emblem story. You have your lord, he's flawed, he comes from a background where he's expected to do great things, but he faces a tragedy, and he's trying to learn where he fits into the world. And that's Dimitri. I call this the husbando path. It's completely opposite of the waifu path in the sense that a lot of females really prefer this path. It's definitely the most popular path in Japan. They're kind of more traditionalist with Fire Emblem. It's the husbando route in particular because there's lots and lots of great guys in this path. So this is for you who really like great guys, complex guys. You have Sylvain, who seems like a on the surface womanizer who's really vulnerable. On the inside you have Felix, who's kind of your traditional tsundere, but he's really skilled with a sword, and the more you get to know him, the more you can empathize with him. You have Dedu, who's kind of your best man here. He will stick with Dimitri through thick and thin, kind of your BFF. And then you have Ash, who is an aspiring knight, but he comes from humble backgrounds as well. So he brings that element with him that's kind of not your typical knight. It's definitely some of the best male characters are from this path. I think, let's say you played Mass Effect and you really appreciate Garrus in Mass Effect, this is definitely the path for you, because all of these guys are fantastic and they will stick with you through thick and thin. They're all kind of tough and macho on the outside, but on the inside, you kind of discover what makes them tick. So I think that's really, really important here. Again, it's your traditional Fire Emblem story about a lord trying to fit in with the rest of the world, and it's interesting to see Dimitri go through up and down. You kind of follow him through ups and downs. You kind of feel for him. Sometimes you may not relate to him, but then at the end of the day, his heart is in the right place, and it's actually completely the opposite of Crimson Flower's Edelgard's route. So if you play Crimson Flowers first and then you play Blue Lions, they're kind of polar opposite. So it really gives you two unique perspectives. I really think in Crimson Flower and in Azuremoon, Dimitri's the most featured. In the other two paths, which we're going to talk about, he's not featured as much. So definitely play this one if you want the husbandos, or you definitely want to go through a complex development of a Fire Emblem Lord. And I would definitely recommend this. For the second playthrough, again, if you play both Crimson Flower and you play Azuremoon, it's going to give you a good perspective on each. So definitely would recommend. It is one of the longer ones, so one of the critiques about Crimson Flowers is because it's 18 maps or 18 chapters, it's kind of short. But then Azuremoon is one of the longest routes, so if you play them back to back, you kind of get a fulfilling sense here. So I definitely recommend that, especially if you're going to do more than one playthrough. Okay? Alright, this brings us to Verdant Winds, which is the goldendeer path. This is Claude's path, and you can see here he has that anime, mischievous look to him. And definitely in this path is the most anime type path. And let me tell you what I mean by that. In anime, things are crazy. Some of these shonen animes in particular, it's kind of like they're one-upping the previous chapter. And there's lots of twists and turns and surprises. So definitely play this path if you want kind of that anime feeling, that epic shonen anime feel. It has all of that. Surprisingly too, it's kind of the most complete route. And what I mean by that is from the get-go of Fire Emblem, you're shown this cutscene featuring these two people battling it out in kind of an epic battle. And if you want to find out what happens to those two people from start to finish, this is the path that will do it for you. I know I recommended Blue Lions as a second playthrough to juxtapose Crimson Flowers. Azuremoon and Crimson Flowers, they're kind of opposites, but Verdant Wind is kind of its own story. It's not particularly opposite, it's just kind of a complete in and of itself. It does tie Azuremoon for being the longest, being 22 chapters, But Claude, being kind of the tactician he is, kind of the mischievous character he is, he doesn't hold any loyalties, he doesn't hold any prejudice. He just goes about doing things his own way, and that does bring kind of a unique twist to it, and I would definitely recommend going this path. If you want kind of an end-to-end story, if you don't want to play Crimsonflowers or azuremoon, if you don't want to go waifu or husbando, you just want to experience kind of an epic journey, Verdant Wind is the one for you. I recommend it as the third playthrough because it gives you the end-to-end perspective, and it has more meaning if you play the original. So this is kind of like Star Wars, right? If you watch the original trilogy and then you watch Clone Wars or the prequel, this will give you more of a complete picture, so to speak. Alright, now this brings us to the fourth path. Now, the fourth path is called Silversnow, and I wrote blackeagles Redux here because it starts very, very similar to blackeagles. In fact, you have to play the blackeagles route the first half. There's a decision along the way which you make to either side with Edelgard or side with Rhea. And if you really like Rhea, if that first cutscene in the game really captures you, you like that motherly type, you kind of like the mystery, the intrigue of the church that's in the game, definitely pick this one. This one gives you kind of the origins about why you are so powerful, what makes you special amongst everyone else. It kind of gives you that. Ironically though, it has the same impact on its ending as playing the other blackeagles route. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's kind of like, if you play Crimson Eagles, your goal is to unite everyone. Same thing here in Silversnow. Ironically, you unite everyone, just with a different point of view. So I don't know if it's necessarily better. If you played the first three, this one is really kind of optional. I don't think it's crucial, I think it's optional. And as far as being the origins and trying to figure out who you are and what makes you special, and where you came from, how you came to be, I think the DLC actually did a better job. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about Cinder Shadows. This is we call it the fourth house, but it's actually DLC, and it's led by Yuri here. Yuri is kind of like Claude, except he's more realistic, he's more willing to do shady things kind of to accomplish his goals. Doesn't really fight fair. He's kind of the underground leader, so to speak. But if you played Cinder Shadows, it's really, really fan service. So not only do you get to play with all three lords, Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, but you get to find out more about your backstory. As the main protagonist, you find out more about your backstory. It does an even better job than having to sit through kind of 21 chapters with Silversnow. You played Cinder Shadows instead, which is only about like, I don't know, I think it's like 6 or 7 chapters, then you can definitely get the most out of this. So I definitely recommend playing this over Silversnow. Don't waste your time with Silversnow. And the cool thing is, if you complete this, you get to recruit these Cinder Shadows, these ashenwolves students into your class during the main story. I call it the outcast route, simply because, none of the students really fit any of the other houses. I feel it kind of fits the main protagonist, because you're kind of an unknown, and these guys are unknown. They're called ashenwolves because, ironically, your main character that you play, the nickname for him or her is the Ashen Demons. So I definitely feel like this class fits them both, and the characters slash the unique jobs, I'll call them jobs because that's what they call it in Final Fantasy, it really fits them. And I definitely want you to check this out, especially if you went through 3 houses with all the other paths and you really like Fire Emblem. This DLC is definitely worth it. I don't even have the best part, is if you get this DLC, if you get DLC at all, kind of the season pass, you get Anna as a playable character. And Anna is the best character in Fire Emblem. she's not the #1 waifu. I've made another video for that, but she's definitely my favorite character because she shows up in every single Fire Emblem. So hopefully with this, it should give you guys a pretty good idea on what to choose, whether it be crimsonflower with the blackeagles, whether it be azuremoon with the bluelions, Verdant Wind with the goldendeer house. If you want to do silversnow, it's really up to you. I would skip it. I don't think it adds anything to the story that Verdant Winds and Cinder Shadows do, but I definitely recommend Cinder Shadows if you're gonna go, if you really like it and you want to get the DLC. So that's my update for 2020. I know Black Friday is right around the corner. There's already been some sales on Three Houses. I think it'll come back during Black Friday. So hopefully with that, you guys have a good decision-making ability to decide what you want to, which route you want to take, so to speak. All right, hopefully that guide was useful for you. Catch you guys later.